How do you see the subject of unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs or whatever you want to call it?
I'm a reformed lawyer. I'm an ex-lawyer, but I am a working investigative journalist. How do I see this issue of UAPs? I think it's the biggest story in human history. I'm gobsmacked, absolutely amazed at the truculent resistance by a lot of the legacy media in the United States and in other parts of the world to not realizing that this is the biggest story unfolding before their eyes.
Surrounded by friggin' UFOs.
Of a UFO battle in orbit around Earth.
I believe that's 0428.
Get some information and answers. They are being stonewalled, specifically by, they say, the intelligence community, referencing the CIA by name here.
Stonewalled. That's what keeps happening. Anything to do with the UFO subject worldwide, but especially in the legacy media, you're going to keep hearing of stonewalling through the governments, because the closer you get, in George Knapp's words, the closer you get to the target, the more pushback there's going to be, and that's exactly what's happening. So here's a little clip of Ross Coulter from the Need to Know podcast on YouTube with his reaction and his thoughts on the government after the bill was squashed.
If anything, the events of the last few weeks underline to me that there is no basis whatsoever for us to expect that there is going to be transparency coming from Congress, because sadly, the state of American democracy is such, as President Eisenhower warned back at the time of his departure from the presidency, that the military-industrial complex, the defense aerospace community, the defense and intelligence community carries such sway within the administration of the US government that it's impossible to get proper scrutiny and accountability of issues like the UAP issue.
The bill that's been put forward has been completely squashed. It was put forward by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who actually pushed negotiators working out the differences between the House and Senate versions of the bill and new UFO disclosure laws to the legislation. Schumer and a number of other senators wanted to create a UAP records review board, which was modelled after the government's handled records with the President John F. Kennedy's assassination, where the UFO documents would carry the presumption of immediate disclosure. Of course, that didn't make the final bill. Still, lawmakers are now on the verge of approving new disclosure rules in the annual defence policy bill after the House and Senate negotiators inserted language into the page of National Defence Authorization Act conference report. Once the records make it to the archives, they would be made available for public inspection in 30 days and be accessible online within 180 days later. Of course, this has all been squashed. I would have never seen that coming, and the funniest part about it is the main congressmen and senators that opposed it were senators and congressmen that are funded by the military-industrial complex, Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, and the rest. But looking on the upside, the UFO subject is becoming more and more popularised. Everybody's talking about it now. We are having a paradigm shift of consciousness.
For the UFO podcast.
Content, UFO, UAP stuff is like personal interest.
That has been coordinating this. They have been doing crash retrievals for many years.
The fact that this has been held back from the American public.
Like they're in flying objects, and you're like, well, what was going on there then?
And not to mention the fact that UFO discussion has been around for at least a century now. I think through YouTube and non-mainstream legacy media sources, we're starting to open our mind up to the facts of reality and perception. Well, we know now that transparency isn't going to come until we basically get more whistleblowers coming out, which there are hundreds in government just waiting to come out.
The simple reality is, Chris, there is a phenomenon that is manifesting itself all over the world, and it's real, and it's not just in America.
Sightings of an unidentified flying object or UFO were reported from several parts of the island last night.
Eyewitnesses claim to have seen a bright spherical object flying in the night sky. However, as captured by telescopes, it was a bright square-shaped object with a moving core. The sightings were reported between 7 and 7:15 p.m. yesterday in the skies above Hambantota, Galle, Matra and
6. Film was taken of the British Concorde travelling at subsonic speed. At one stage the film shows what appears to be an object descending below Concorde, then ascending to travel parallel with it, and finally moving away over the top at great speed. This is what was seen. And here it is again in slow motion.